Hi, I'm Whitney Merriman. I'm going to explain to you my research on how reading strategies affect informational reading comprehension. I will begin with my abstract. According to Ness, students who were taught such comprehension strategies as predicting, questioning, and summarizing improved their reading comprehension scores on both experimenter constructed test and standardized test. The purpose of this study was to determine which comprehension strategy will improve the expository reading comprehension. In this study, I implemented 3 different reading strategies with 3 different reading classes. I used activating and background knowledge strategy, story map strategy, and question-answer relationship strategy. I compared the impact of these 3 strategies, and question-answer relationship strategy had the largest growth. I will continue to use the 3 strategies in each class and further explore the impact of each strategy throughout the school year. For the professional background, Crow stated, although many educators agree that reading comprehension may be one of the most critical skills a child learns in school, there is less agreement on determining the most effective methods for remediating reading comprehension problems. Comprehension is crucial to my students' success, therefore this research is a necessity. So when I was looking through my research, this quote kind of prompted what I wanted to research. And for my theoretical framework, McIntyre describes the 3 factors that affect literacy development. He said the first is having access to print. The second factor is adult-child interactions. The third factor is literacy levels of parent and caregivers. And since I teach in an Eastern Kentucky poverty area, this was a major issue with my students. So I chose the 3 strategies: activating prior knowledge, story maps, and QAR strategy to see how this affects their reading comprehension. For the activating prior knowledge strategy, readers with higher levels of prior knowledge comprehend text better than readers with little prior knowledge and are also more likely to make inferences across the text in order to construct meaning. My students did this by using KWL charts, brainstorming their journals, think, pair, share, and I can statements. For story maps, Goddard and Gentry state that the use of story maps has a positive correlation on reading comprehension skills, and we access this through setting, characters, problem, solution, theme, and summarization. And the last strategy was the QAR strategy. And Finney, McDuffie, and Landrum and Fisher stated that researchers who have examined the use of QAR have found student improvements in deciphering types of comprehension questions, answering comprehension questions, and overall comprehension ability. And there are 4 different types of QAR strategies. There is the right there in the text, the think and search, the author and me, and on my own. For the use of technology, I use technology to gather data for my literature review. I also use data while gathering and analyzing my data. I was able to create various graphs using Microsoft Word, and these graphs depicted the students' pre-test and post-tests, as well as the results from a survey about their specific reading comprehension strategy. And you will see those in a second in the results and the participation and setting. Technology was also used throughout my actual research and to store the research data. I used technology to decide which strategies would best improve my students' reading comprehension, as well as finding resources to use as the lesson was being taught. I did not have to input any student names, therefore the students remained anonymous. Students only used hard copies on their various assessments, thus the student names were not transferred to the computer data, only a number associated with their name. For the research method, the purpose of the study was to determine which comprehension reading strategy will improve the expository reading comprehension. I used mixed methods research designed with my study. The qualitative data is from observations, and the quantitative data is from students' assessments and surveys. I used a pre-test and post-test of text structures, as well as a survey for my students to complete. I also used a variety of tools to present the 3 reading strategies as well. The data analysis included assessing three different classes using a different reading comprehension strategy. This will allow for comparison across the groups. For participants in setting, this study was conducted at a public Eastern Kentucky elementary school in my classroom. I teach fourth grade, so there was 63 fourth grade students being involved in this study. 25 were males and 38 were females. According to School Digger, 58.8% of the students at this particular school receive free and reduced lunch. So with a high number of free reduced lunch students, it's clear that majority of these students have a low socioeconomic status. And that kind of goes back to McIntyre's research and talking about how the factors of having access to print, the adult-child interactions, and the literacy levels of parent and caregivers. As you can see, the school population is majority white, Hispanic. There's a smaller population and even smaller of two or more races. I chose to conduct the research on all of my fourth grade students because I teach 3 different reading classes, and the levels range from kindergarten up to junior and high school, according to their STAR reading assessment. So with a wide variety of reading levels in my class, it's important that I find what works well for all my students at their differentiated levels. So for the 3 classes, Class A was assigned the question-answer relationship strategy. Class B was assigned story maps, and Class C was assigned activating prior knowledge. As you can see, all 3 classes had a higher percentage of female than male. For data collection, for the procedures, I began my research by providing the students with a pretest in each of my 3 classes about text structures. They were asked to list the 5 structures as well as read a passage and determine what text structure was being used. Each class was then delivered various lessons about text structures for the next 2 weeks, and during that 2-week unit, I focused on 3 reading different comprehension strategies with each of my 3 reading classes. Throughout the 2-week unit, I also noted a variety of student behaviors associated with each reading strategy. After the 2-week unit, the students took a post-test on text structures. The students were again to list the 5 text structures, as well as read a passage and use their assigned reading strategy to identify the text structure being used. Students also completed a 5-question survey about their particular reading comprehension strategy. Some examples were, I feel like I could comprehend the text better with whatever strategy they had, whether it was QAR, story maps, or activating prior knowledge. And I will use the blank strategy again to help with my reading comprehension. Those are just some samples that the students saw. And now I'll explain my results. So from Class A, you can see that they had the question-answer relationship, and majority participants strongly agree that the question-answer relationship strategy helped them learn more about text structures. And majority of participants strongly disagree that they disliked the question-answer relationship strategy. So with these results, it was clear that these students thought that the QAR strategy really helped them learn about text structures, and they also enjoyed using that strategy. Class B had story maps, and majority of those participants said they strongly agreed the story maps strategy helped them comprehend the informational text better. And they also stated that it helped them learn more about text structures. So again, with this strategy, they thought that story maps helped them comprehend better and help them learn more about text structures. Class C had activating prior knowledge. A major finding from this survey was that majority of students said they would use the strategy again, and that they disagreed that they disliked the activating prior knowledge strategy. So this tells me that they will use the strategy again not only in my class, but across other classes such as social studies or science, because it does focus on informational reading. And the results from the pretest and post-test. The pretest, as you can see, students knew very little about text structures, and the red is the post-test, so their numbers out of 10 were very high, and that Class A had the greatest improvement, and that was the question-answer relationship strategy. That was followed by story map strategy and then activating prior knowledge strategy. So the results from the observations, Class A, the participants were hesitant at first about learning about the question-answer relationship strategy, but after class discussion, students began to understand the importance of the strategy. They stated that they knew that some questions were found in the text and some were on their own, but they had never really thought about how important it was to determine where to find the answer to a question. In Class B, the participants said that the story maps were very helpful in determining their text structure with informational text. They especially liked that each text structure had its own story map. So, for example, chronological order had its own story map, and the students really liked that they could associate that with that text structure. They said they had used story maps before, but not the specific story maps that coincide with informational text structures. In Class C, the participants liked the activating prior knowledge strategy because once they understood that connecting the content to their life could help them determine what text structures is being used, they thought it was much easier to apply the knowledge they were learning in class. And they also said that they had used a strategy before through the I can statements and the KWL chart. I'm now going to connect my results to literature. A study by Samuelson and Brayton showed that participants with more prior knowledge about the topic of the text scored higher on the comprehension measure. The study focused on various strategies and their contributions to comprehension with social studies text. So that's an informational text, so that coincides with what Class C used with activating prior knowledge. They connected it back to their life, and my students did that by using their KWL chart. The next was Chang, Sung, and Chen stated applications of both graphic organizers and knowledge maps have achieved impressive results in assisting the reader in memorization and comprehension of text content. It says, second, concept mapping strategy training not only improves reading comprehension skills, but also benefits other linguistic skills related to comprehension, such as text summarization skills. So this study shows that the use of graphic organizers and knowledge maps significantly increased student comprehension and summarization skills, which is so important for informational text structures, for any informational text. Lawrence states Taffy, Raphael, and colleagues created the QAR for students to realize that the answers they seek are related to the type of questions that's asked. Encourage them to be strategic about their search for answers based on an awareness of different types of questions. More importantly, it is the understanding of where the answer will come from. So this study concurs with my study because the QAR strategy helps students understand that there are 4 different types of questions. And when the students can determine what type of question is being asked, they can answer the question efficiently and correctly. Okay, for conclusions and implications for future research. So based on the results of this survey, the participants said they would use activating prior knowledge again. They said they could better comprehend the text with story maps. They also stated that story maps helped them the most. And majority participants stated that they disagreed, that they disliked the QAR strategy. And majority participants were involved with the story map strategy. So they strongly enjoyed that strategy. Based on the results of the observations, it appeared that all three classes enjoyed the three strategies, and they all stated that they would use the strategy again. While some students were hesitant about using the new strategies they were being introduced to, many stated they had previously used the strategy and will use them again in the future. Based on the results of the pre-test and post-test results, the QAR had the highest growth, followed by story maps and then activating prior knowledge. Since the study was only conducted with the text structure unit, I think further research is needed to determine the true impact of each strategy. And I will continue to use each strategy when teaching informational reading. And the link to my work. So this research has proven that question-answer relationships, story maps, and activating prior knowledge strategies all improve student informational reading skills. These are strategies that my students will continue to use throughout the school year. The students will be able to use these strategies on various information texts, and in return, their comprehension skills will improve. Thank you very much for your time.